Welcome back from the short break and thanks for staying with us. Eye on the Seat is sponsored by TV3 Network Limited with support from Star Ghana strengthening transparency, accountability and responsiveness through transformational national development and accountable public service for all Ghanaians. My guest for this evening, starting from my far left, Dr. Ahmed Jinapo, who is a lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. Joe Jackson is a governance analyst, and Professor Bafo Ajimandua is a former UN senior governance advisor. They'll be joining me for the discussion. Good evening to all of you, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, so let me start off with you, Dr. Jinapo. It's been day 1 and 2 of special voting. What's your assessment of the whole process?
Well, let me say good evening to your cherished viewers, and good evening to my very dear Professor Jiman, and my good friend, Mr. Jackson. I think, as we speak now, they were supposed to be voting today. I'm not very sure if it's ended.
It's come to an end in
most
of the polling centers, yes. It's past 6 now, it's supposed to have ended. I mean, by the time, as I was walking into the studio, it had ended in some centers.
Okay. Well, if you ask me, and I think the position that I hold is more of a position that is held by most Ghanaians, even including the Electoral Commission, that the special voting exercise, especially for the first round, and I say the first round because we've had 2 rounds. The first one happened on the 1st of December, and today have not been very successful. It's not been successful because of a number of reasons which for me should have been known to the general public coming from the Electoral Commission, because as it stands now, most of the reasons that were given relative to we having challenges with the first one are untenable. Untenable in the sense that most of the reasons were due to lack of communication, i.e. somebody like Winston, who is a journalist and a special voter, hadn't registered to vote as a special voter. And it's very important that a distinction needs to be made that when you're a special voter, it doesn't mean that you are a new entrant into the voter register. What it means is that you are already an existing registered voter, but you want to vote before. And I think along the line, and I'm hesitant to say that it had to do with education, because as I said, the whole idea that lack of education led to where we are today is untenable because it's repeated in the sense that the argument that was being made was people were not informed where they should have voted. Indeed, some people were told that even though you registered in a place like, let's say, Fufusu, that's where my vote is, and I'm voting as a special voter, and I happen to be working at TV3. Probably I would have been given the opportunity to vote here somewhere around TV3. But what we are being told is that wasn't the law. So if I happen to be here at TV3 and I happen to go around to look for my name around to vote, and my name is not there, what the Electoral Commission explained was that undoubtedly my name should be back at Fufusu. But here is the case: we have some people who happen to have gone back to the original constituencies and their names happen not to be there. The conclusion is, I do not want to speak too much about this issue. I think there are a number of things that needs to be done. Number one, even though it's too little too late, the Electoral Commission will have to give us a tenable explanation as to why we are where we are, in the sense that
they say it's not their fault.
It's not about. It's not about.
I mean,
it's not, no, it's not about.
Officers did not even submit a list, and so if you didn't submit the list, why do you turn around and blame the Electoral Commission?
Winston, it's not about apportioning blame. What we do know, and if the information that was being provided is information that is right, we are told that the number of registered special voters was somewhere around 100 and something. 127,000 people. So if it's 127,000 people registered, confirmed by the Electoral Commission, and just 10,000 votes, then it could be 2 things. 1, either the names are not there, or 2, those people did not show up. It's as simple as that. That said, most of us, or most Ghanaians, are worried and a little bit cynical regarding this because of not just the 127,000 people who are going to vote, but the 60 million people who will be voting on December 7th. And that is where most people are worried. I think the Electoral Commission has an opportunity to right the wrong.
Okay. And
in righting the wrong, first of all, they need to reassure Ghanaians, and it should be as quick as possible by tomorrow.
We'll get to the assurance. Let me get to Joe Jackson also. Your assessment of day 1 and 2.
You know, to be honest, after day 1, I was really inclined to cut the Electoral Commission a lot of slack, saying this is this is a new dispensation under the Electoral Commission. Some of the rules have been tinkered with, and so things were maybe not the same as. And I was really not worried, and I kept saying that let's not drag the Electoral Commission down because it's only Electoral Commission we have. But you see, the challenge you have is that day two, similar problems, at least similar problems reported. And we are yet to find out how many of the purported 127,000 have voted yet. Now,
I mean, at the end of the day, 94,000 of them, 92,000 had voted.
Oh, 92,000.
92,000, yes, representing 72%.
Okay.
Now, the question you have is that if there are still that many challenges for 127,000, then when you take the millions who will vote on Wednesday, then we have cause to worry. I will also caution that regardless of how bad things are, it's really the Electoral Commission we've got.
Yes, but I mean, Joe,
But
70% of turnout in every, 72% of turnout in every election is very high.
Yes.
That's an excellent turnout.
But remember that the special voting exercise is always high. Why? Because there are people whose names are submitted. It's not as if I'm sitting in my home and I have to decide that I'm going to queue in the morning or not. No. It says that I wish to vote. And because I have an official duty to do, I'm requesting to vote early.
Yeah, but people could be indisposed then, so wouldn't be able to vote.
But how many of them?
In my polling center, apart from those who went there and didn't find their names, there was 71 eligible voters. 51 voted on the first day. At the end of voting, 15 people had voted. The remaining 20 just didn't show up.
You see, part of their not showing on day one was also due to the confusion. Right, the register was changed at the last minute. People were not informed. I remember that in the afternoon, there was a WhatsApp message going around that text your voter's ID number to short code 6363, or was it 366? I think it was
6363.
6363,
yeah.
And then get your polling station and go there. That was all well and easy if my polling station is in Osu and I'm stuck in TV3. But it doesn't work if my polling station is in Wa and I'm stuck in even Tamale. So the thing is this. I like what Dr. Jinapo said. Electoral Commissioner should come out. The Commission needs to assure each and every one of us that they are on top of the game, that they've had two opportunities to learn from their failures. And they should be transparent, utterly transparent. I mean, was it an IT error? What went wrong?
Okay.
And then let us know. None of the smoke and mirrors business that sometimes happens. This time, come clean. They owe it to themselves. They owe it to the public.
When you say this time come clean, an indication the Electoral Commission doesn't come clean all the time?
No. Sometimes there's a bit of smoke and mirrors, which means that, you see, there is, I like what they say when you go to court. Mm-hmm. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That sometimes is the truth without it being whole.
So the Electoral Commission at times do not tell us the whole story.
The whole story. I don't think that the failures of the first round, they told us the whole story and nothing but the story. I think there was some dressing up. But this time, if the reports we hear that still people couldn't find their names,
okay, and
significant people can't find their names, then we need to they need to show us that they have learned from two pilots.
Talking about learning from two pilots, Prof, must the Electoral Commission come out telling us, okay, so we got it wrong? Do they necessarily need to do so?
No, not necessarily. Except, of course, where there are serious, glaring cases of malfunction of the system, then they have a duty to inform the citizens. But you know, when I heard on Thursday, after the first balloting, that 72% turnout, I was elated. Because normally, elections, if you get 72% turnout, you think it's great. But then I thought, no, this is not the general elections. These are elections involving special people who have declared their intention to vote. So you will expect more than the 72. Secondly, I won't have been disturbed if, in fact, like you said earlier, some of them could have been sick or whatever for failing to show up. But then, if you consider the fact that there are many of them around the country complaining the second time, which is today, that their name did not appear, and some of them, in fact, getting enraged to the extent of even causing some kind of commotions at these places, then you begin to wonder what really is wrong, especially after the commission had assured these same people after the fiasco of Thursday that now everything is in place.
Yes, because Prof, the commission said, for those of you, now there are some people who registered and they thought that, okay, I could vote wherever. They said, okay, there are some of you who went to certain polling centers thinking that you had transferred your vote, so you haven't. Go to your original constituencies or districts and go and vote. So for those people, you could go there to vote. But for the others who did not have their name in the list at all, there was nothing that you could do.
Well, then this kind of information should be very clear, made very, very clear.
It was in the press release yesterday.
Well, I don't know whether all these individuals have access to these releases, but of course, the blame is not necessarily the Electoral Commission, but I think the connection between the Commission and the security agencies and their personnel, something may have gone wrong there. Because if the announcement was made that, look, if your name is transferred to this station, go there, and if it's not there, don't even bother to go, and yet you went to find out your name wasn't there, then, you know, that perhaps the information was simply not properly communicated. But I think it's not too late. I think they should allow those who were not able to vote today, whose names are at the original polling station, they should allow them on Wednesday to go back to do their civic duty before they go and assume the other responsibilities. Because you know what? I read somebody say, after failing to vote the second time today, that the pain he's experiencing is worse than if his own daughter has died. That's a very interesting, very telling kind of statement. In other words, to be disenfranchised for him is more painful than that. So it tells you that citizens, people are simply ready to exercise their vote, and nothing should be done to frustrate them or to stop them from performing that civic duty.
Now, yes, Doc.
Two things need to be explained. Number one, special voting as it happens in this country is not something that is starting this year or this period. It's something that we've experienced for a very long time. And we have that concept for a reason. The reason being that on the day that we are voting, which is on December 1st, somebody like you'll be so busy that you won't get a chance to go to vote.
Yeah.
So you are given a privilege to be able to vote before the day of the general engagement. Two, when the Electoral Commission on its own did say that we are giving the special voters a second opportunity to vote, it meant that the Electoral Commission on its own had acknowledged that something was not right.
And they said it.
Yes.
They said that people went to the wrong polling center. So go to the right polling centers now.
When I say something was not right, what I'm trying to say is that the Electoral Commission, by that action, is acknowledging that 70% of voters is not enough. It's not enough by their records. If we have a special voting mechanism and we have 70% of people voting and we are still giving them the opportunity to go and vote again, it's an acknowledgement of the fact that the 70% turnout is not what they expected. So we should be careful not to say that 70% that's quite impressive. No, by their own action, it means that it was not enough. The second point that I want to make is, it's final, and it dovetails back to the first point that I made, in the sense that now that these people, and we don't even know, we should wait to hear what the data is going to be post the counting today. How many people have voted now? What is the percentage? What is the overview of the election? As the Electoral Commission says, what happens to them? Will they be allowed to vote on election day? And these are people who have special responsibilities.
The EC says go to your polling centers, be deployed to that polling center, vote, and continue with
but
your
you
job.
see, that brings back the point that I was making, that they were not allowed to vote just for voting sake. They were allowed to vote because they have a special mandate.
Unfortunately,
So if you couldn't vote,
apply for them.
So if you couldn't vote, what happens? Does that mean that you are not going to what? Execute that mandate? For instance, a policeman. Will that mean that you'll not be able to police the ballot?
The rules,
what does that mean? So
Okay.
I think that the issue is bigger than as it is now, and that is where I call on the Electoral Commission should come publicly and address some of these issues by even as much as possible letting the public know where we are, what challenges they face, and to reassure the general public that this is not going to happen again.
Talking about reassurance, finally, Joe Jackson, on this subject, are we ready for December 7?
You know, sadly, I think that we have cause to worry. I can't say we can say blanket that we are not ready, but there's cause to worry.
What is that cause to worry?
The cause to worry is this, that we are not sure exactly why the names were not in the register. And we are not sure whether, you see, some maybe...
The EC says they didn't apply. If
So
you
what
didn't
about-
find your name, you didn't apply.
So what about today? Well, we're yet to find out.
Yes, today's was those who, for instance, I know somebody who said I wanted to vote in Odudujuju, but she had registered in Takrady. So she checked in Takrady, checked in Odudujuju, realized her name was not in Odudujuju, went to Takrady. Others did not check. So the EC says, for those of you who did not check, you have an opportunity to do so now. Go and vote.
The point is this: whatever it is, we have reports that are talking about people being angry, people being disenchanted, people being comparing the pain of being disenfranchised to
Losing a daughter.
to losing a daughter. So, what does this say? People are unhappy. Now, all we need to know is it going to be something that is restricted to the special voting exercise, or what caused the problem could be extended nationwide?
What do you foresee happening?
Well, that's why we need the Election Commission to come out and tell us the whole truth
They'll give you the assurance, wouldn't they?
and nothing but the truth.
They would give you the assurance.
No, it's not about assurances. You see,
They'll tell you their story. They've
hey,
started already.
hold on. It's okay to tell me, give me an assurance first time. When first time it happens, oh, it's okay, don't worry, we all go gloss over it, we move on. Then you come back and you say you are unhappy with the result. So remember that there's even cause to wonder whether it was not against the law for the Election Commission to appoint to say that we will go round 2 today. There's a whole argument. There's a whole
There
body.
was an IPAC consultation.
No, there was IPAC.
But IPAC is not the law.
IPAC is not the law. IPAC is about convenience to all parties. But there is a whole body of thought that says that the commission did not have the right.
What is your thought on that?
I think that the law in elections should be. There's a common saying: the law is an ass. But this time we don't need an ass. We need something that works.
Okay, this is Eye on the Seat on TV3 and also live on 3FM 92.7 in Accra. And I am Winston Amwa. So let's get to who gets the top job. Professor Boafa Jimanduya. Who gets the top job? It's only 2 days.
Top job of president of the
Yes,
country?
president of the country.
I wish I could tell you.
You've been monitoring the campaign. Come on, Prof. You've been
I
monitoring the
wish I
campaign.
could tell you.
You've been monitoring the
I've
campaign.
been monitoring for sure.
You've been listening to Ghanaians
that-
speak.
The campaign this year is like nothing I've seen before in terms of the investments at least the ruling party has made to ensure its victory. Of course, the opposition parties are all very actively engaged. But I'll tell you, it's going to be a very, very close fought contest. My feeling is whoever wins will win first round. I don't expect any runoff.
Why that feeling?
Because, you know, the nation as a whole, I think we've learned some lessons. All previous elections have been ending in runoffs, and the 2012 experience is very fresh in our minds. And the reason why perhaps we may not go for a runoff is also the multiple parties. I understand that maybe PPP is not that strong, but I think they are going to take some votes away from certain parties. And that's going to perhaps allow one of the dominant parties to just win outright.
Anytime every government has served 8 years in office, there's been a runoff. 2000,
yeah.
2008, this is 2016. If that's anything to go by.
Yeah, but you know, there's a little difference here.
I want to understand that difference.
The incumbent hasn't served the whole 8 years like the previous 8-year office holders. So there's a difference there. And I think the approach of the incumbent this time around also has been very interesting, very fascinating. I think they're going all out. I wouldn't say by foul means, but really by all kinds of means to ensure their victory. Because if you listen to what's going on around the country, vote buying is very rampant around the country, as indicated by the findings of surveys of the CODEO, for instance, and other kinds of credible research institutions. And I think the use of this, even though we tend to say, oh, Ghanaians are more discerning, take the money and vote your conscience, it has never been so. I think people taking money, especially in the rural areas, and also people going to buy into the idea that, well, I've seen something visible that perhaps the incumbent government has done. All these things are going to influence people. But I think it's going to be a very, very close fight.
It's going to be a very, very close one. The incumbent hasn't served, the full term yet. That's the president, and the incumbent, yes, has a lot of resources available.
Yes.
You say there's also been a bit of vote buying in the rural areas.
Yes.
People take these monies and are likely to do so.
And the feeling of change is also very strong among people.
Are you then saying or suggesting that the incumbent is likely to win?
Not at all.
What are you suggesting then?
The win for change is equally strong. People calling for change, very, very strong. And I won't be surprised if, in fact, that win that sweeps people off their feet. I will not be surprised.
What do you think, Joe Jackson?
I think there'll be a runoff. There are two major forces at play. One is that if President Mahama had served, had served 8 years, I think that the wind would have swung to the other side. So you have on one hand people wondering, 8 years of NDC, do we need a change? And there's a significant upswell of that. Also because the economy has been bad, there's been a lot of layoffs, things have not been as buoyant as it has been in other times. So is there, that is at play. Yet at the same time, the president hasn't served 8 years. So will Ghanaians give him the benefit of doubt?
Let's look at the dynamics now. And starting off with infrastructure.
Okay.
Does it win elections?
It does.
It does.
Listen, think about it this way. If I haven't seen a road in my place, and I see a road, a good road, it definitely influences my judgment. Be careful though, not all infrastructure does.
Which one doesn't and which one does?
I'll tell you what, the things that win election are schools and roads in the rural areas.
The schools are being built, the roads are being constructed.
That's why. That's exactly why we think that there will be a runoff, because we don't think that there is enough. The ruling party is doing enough for all of us to wonder whether Ghanaians will give President Mahama the benefit of the doubt. That's why I said there will be a runoff. Simply being that when I'm going to vote, I cannot predict what somebody else will do.
Yes, but if the roads win elections, if the schools win elections, and the roads are being done, the schools are being built, then the incumbent has the advantage.
But that's not the only problem.
What's the other problem?
There are other problems. Take Bronga Hafo, take DKM, take Ashanti, take the mines, take the Western region, the layoffs.
What's happening in Ashanti?
In Ashanti, Obuasi is decimated. And then you have a combination of the Obuasi guys taking their money to DKM.
And that's just like a private job. It didn't happen because of, say, a challenge coming from government.
You see, the thing is this. when you have a government that is so overwhelming and a government that claims all good, then when things go wrong, unfortunately, you'll be the first to be blamed. So you have a situation where the economy is soft. There are layoffs.
Are you saying we are blaming Mahama wrongly?
I'm not saying you're blaming Mahama wrongly.
Are we blaming the government wrongly?
Not at all. Listen.
You say the first person we would blame as the government, not just because they've done anything wrong, but because that's the first point.
No. Listen carefully here. Who runs this economy? The government is the biggest employer. The government is the biggest borrower. The government is the biggest spender. The government is the biggest everything. If the economy is soft, who do I look to first?
Tell me.
The government. The government controls monetary policy. The government controls the budget. The government controls spending. Half the debts in the financial sector are owed by the government.
After the second round, where does it go?
After the second round?
Yes.
It's going to be the dynamic. I don't think anybody it can go anywhere. It will even go down to after who campaigns hardest in between the two. Do people run for the bush? Do they spend more money? Because remember, if there's why it's difficult is that if there's a runoff, how many times can you commission a school? Once the school is commissioned, if there's runoff, you can't commission a school anymore.
Okay.
You have to put feet on the ground. If there's a runoff, what is hard to tell is how much influence are the fringe parties, and I say fringe without hoping not to offend anybody, but they are fringe. If you take 1.7% of the vote in total, you are fringe. How much influence will they have? And also remember that things change if your parliamentary candidate who has won is campaigning.
Okay.
You see, so whoever wins,
and the party which has majority in parliament.
Thank you, because all of a sudden, I'm not sure Ghanaians are ready for a hang parliament yet.
Okay, let me get to Dr. Jinapor.
Okay.
Who gets it?
West, before I respond to that, just one issue regarding the special voting before we get there. And I think it's very instructive in the sense that reference was made to somebody who said he wished or he would have preferred his daughter dying than him not the pain. And there were reports of some security officers kicking ballot boxes and misbehaving.
Yeah.
Look, as a Ghanaian, in as much as I sympathize with these individuals who were not given the opportunity to vote, and that doesn't mean the door is shut, they still will have the opportunity to vote. But we should not countenance any kind of insubordination, especially coming from the security officers, where as a disciplined institution like the police or the military, for some reason or the other, be it not be your fault, where you are not given the opportunity to vote, then you start kicking the ballot box to the extent that some even threaten the electoral commissioners. I think it should not be entertained, and I'll call on the IGP or whoever is responsible to make sure these individuals are brought to book. Because if a policeman can do that, who am I? An ordinary teacher. If I go and my name is not there, what will I do? I misbehave. I think that should not be counted.
Okay, so
that's it.
Let's get to the campaign. 2 days to go.
It's interesting.
Who's winning?
In fact, I wish I could, and it's possible. It's possible in the sense that most of these things.
So give us the dynamics.
Let me just speak to this issue as an ordinary person and a layman, because whatever I'm going to say is not supported by any scientific research or data or whatever it is. But I'm speaking as an ordinary street person. You see, I think we need to be careful not to. Let the audience think as if every government has 8 years. No, every government has 4 years. Every presidency. John Mahama was voted for 4 years. His mandate ends on the 31st of January. Oh, on the 31st of December. January, if he wins, he takes over.
So for January.
President Kufuor was given 1 term. By his performance, he was given another term. If Nana Addo had won in 2008, it doesn't mean that the MPP's term had been extended. No, they can win as much as they are performing. So I think we need to clarify that no party or president has 8 terms or whatever it is. That's it. I've always said that, look, when it comes to elections where you have a sitting president, it's always a referendum on the president. Mr. Jackson says that there's going to be a runoff. If there's a runoff, automatically the president loses.
You think so?
It's as simple as that.
Why do you say so?
No, let me say. Let me explain.
Go ahead, explain.
If there's a runoff, automatically the president loses because it's a referendum on the president. All the other parties, MPP and all the other parties are fighting for one thing: to unseat John Mahama. There's nobody who is contesting John Mahama who is saying that I'm fighting because I stand in line with the philosophical orientation of the president and what he has done. Anybody who's contesting John Mahama thinks that John Mahama did not do well. It's a fact.
It doesn't mean they wouldn't support him.
That's what it is.
But it doesn't mean they wouldn't support John Mahama.
So far as your name is on the ballot, Winston, so far as your name is on the ballot, what we are saying is that President Mahama seats should be given to me. So it's an indictment on the president. It's as simple as that. And we've seen it before, at least twice. Let me land. At least twice. In 2000, when there was a runoff, the opposition won. In 2008, when there was a runoff, the opposition won. In 2012, if there was a runoff, the opposition, because the whole reason why the opposition is fighting incumbent is because they think the incumbent has not done well.
Dr. Jinapo,
so they will gang up.
You say once it gets into a runoff, the ruling party will lose because of the other parties. In 2008,
yes,
the DFP supported the NPP. There is that evidence to show that some parties go with the ruling party.
Let me tell you something.
And so it is not something that they could just say that happens. Yes.
Recently, I've heard a number of political parties, those who were disqualified, Apalu, Ayarga, and all those people saying that we are supporting candidate A or candidate B. It's a cliche. It's a cliche.
What cliche is that?
I mean, let me explain why. In the sense that in Ghana, when your party does not win, the people have the freedom to move and join whichever they want. And most often, the opposition always wins because of the concept surrounding this whole election. It's always a referendum on the incumbent. It's as simple. But that said, let's put it aside. Let's move to the prediction that you were talking about.
Yes.
I believe that any time that there is an election and you have an incumbent, especially you have an establishment of a president contesting again, it boils down to the narrative. What is the narrative? In 2000, let me explain. In 2000, Kufuor said she was sitting in the Tuabapa. That was what Kufuor said. He said she was sitting in the Tuabapa. And that was at a point in time that everybody would agree that, look, when you look at the environment, you could see that, look, things were really what? Tough. Things were tough. And if I remember very well, there was this lady, Cindy Thompson or whatever her name is. She sang this song, Erade Kasao. And when that song was being played, you could hear, goosebumps.
But things were tough also in 2008.
I'm coming there. I'm saying the narrative. Probably things were not tough, but the MPP and the Kufuor candidate Kufuor was able to carve a narrative that, look, things are really tough. So you look at your situation and make a decision. I'm not saying vote for me.
Is Nanado doing the same?
I'm getting to 2008.
Then you get to 2016.
2012. 2008, what did President Mel say? Candidate Mel, he said, look, better Ghana what agenda? Who doesn't want something better?
So 2016, is Nanado doing the same?
2016, as we speak now, I cannot put my finger on the exact narrative. The narrative is change. That is
what is it now?
Change. That is the narrative. The narrative is what? Change. The NDC is saying infrastructure. And I was very happy you asked my brother, does infrastructure has an impact? So, as for me, if you ask me, post 2016, some of us who are very interested in politics, we are going to look at the influence and place of infrastructure development.
So will the change,
the re-election,
will the narrative of change this time around work for the NPP?
I wouldn't know. I wish I could. I wouldn't know. I wish I could, because you see, in reality, Winston,
is change happening or about to come?
I mean, whatever I say will posit me in a certain context.
And that's what you're running away from.
He's saying
that's what you're running away from. Anyway, Dr. Jinapo.
I'm not here.
Now that I understand you, Dr. Jinapo.
I'm speaking.
Now that I understand, Dr. Jinapo.
I say change is
Dr. Jinapo.
Change is coming.
Now that I understand you, let me get to Joe Jackson. I understand where you're coming from. It's 2 days to the elections now. What must the political parties do, if there is anything, to make sure they win the elections?
Go to the ground.
And do what?
Door to door.
48 hours to the elections.
Campaigning ends on Tuesday.
The campaigning ends on Tuesday. Today, the work is for the foot soldiers.
The campaign ends Monday night.
Yes. It's just, what are you going to do?
That's 24 hours.
Yes, hold another rally. You think, listen, rallies are attended by your core supporters. Rallies are there to reassure your supporters that it is good. It's done. What should you do? Tonight, tomorrow, every MP, his representatives, the chairman of the constituency, the foot soldiers, they should be knocking on doors. That's the only way that's going to work. Otherwise, it's not going to be. I tell you, the last 2 days, nothing depends on President Kufuor, President Mahama, or Ivor Greenstreet, or Nana Akufo-Addo.
Okay.
It's whose ground game works.
Prof, would Nanado's non-participation in the debate have any effect on his chances of winning?
I don't believe so. I don't believe
Why?
so at all. If he had done so, if he had participated, it would have been good for him, and for me it would have been great for our democracy, because a convention that we started building back in 2000, it's been flopping here and there, because normally the incumbent will not show, but Mahama has, been committed to these debates. And if I think Nanado had participated, it would have deepened this convention that we have established. But there were some.
Are you suggesting debates don't win elections?
Not at all. I didn't say that. Debates
So
help.
then-
Debates help. But in this particular case, by the way, debates may or may not even help. If you take what we saw in America with Hillary and Donald Trump, I'm not sure.
At least she won the popular vote. If she were in Ghana, she'd be president by now.
Oh, but unfortunately, it's not in Ghana.
Yes, if she were in Ghana, so
Exactly.
she won the
so
popular
in that
vote.
respect, the debates really didn't help her, because he could have also won the electoral college votes. She didn't. But the point I'm making is that certainly, if Nana had participated, it would have helped to deepen the convention that we have started. But we have to also recognize there were certain precedents to that particular decision of his. First, all of them were committed to the IE debate, and then somehow the NDC pulled out. So Nana said, okay, if you are pulled out, fine.
So debates don't really matter. They
For
don't
me, it's
really-
not a game changer. Let me put it bluntly.
It doesn't
Debates
change
are
the game.
not at all.
It's just
It
deepening
helps.
democracy.
It deepens it, then it may be able to change some minds. But if you look at the generality of people, the electorate, I don't think debates will decide who wins election. It does not.
But
It
those
helps-
minds that you're talking about, one person could change. That's why it's more than 50%. In Ghana, we say 50% plus one.
If
And that
you
one
change
mind,
person,
which is
sure,
changed,
in this kind of
matters in an
system,
election.
one vote counts a lot. I understand that. But
so
I'm
it could
saying,
go against Nanado.
No, I don't believe it will go against him, because
If it
people
would
have
change
made up
minds and
their
he wasn't
mind.
there, it would have changed the minds in the other way around and not in his
But
favor.
he wasn't there. He was still campaigning
You'd agree
at
with me
other
on that,
places.
wouldn't you?
No. It's not changing. It's not. We know from our records. There are a certain percentage of the Ghanaian electorate that are core for NDC, and 35% to 40%. Same with NPP. That's why our elections are always very, very keenly contested. The floating voters, roughly about 15-20%, is what people will
Okay.
fight for.
We need to be wrapping up, Dr. Jinapo. Finally,
I think very
anything they can do to win it in,
Yeah,
in 2 days?
I think most Ghanaians, if you ask me, have made up their minds as of now. Most of them. And it doesn't mean
There's
that
some floating who make up their mind on the day of the
the
elections.
small percentage. In fact, when I was coming today, I had a colleague of mine, very sophisticated, deep, and he was asking me.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, that small percentage decides who becomes
he was
president.
telling me that even as at now, he hasn't decided whom he's waiting for.
Ooh, I have voted already.
A colleague of mine, he was telling me he
Yeah.
wasn't not. But you see, the point is this: you are having this back and forth with Prof regarding debate. I think that debates
In a minute.
have impact in the sense that why do we campaign? We campaign because verbally we try to convince people. That is what debate is about. Debate is giving you opportunity.
So would that affect Nanado's chances?
I wouldn't know. We should wait on a hindsight in the sense that if you remember, you look at the Trump-Hillary issue. We all got it wrong. We got it wrong because we used
The Post got it right.
The polls, most of them got it wrong.
There was a margin of error.
Most of the polls got it wrong. In the sense that we use the ordinary scientific analysis that we use all the time, and this time we got it wrong. So I think what is going to happen?
Silent majority.
What is going to happen? Let me give you the prediction that I have.
Finally, yes.
The prediction is this: this election is going to be a shocker because it's going to be a one-touch.
For who?
So you agree with me?
For who?
I don't know. It's going to be a one-touch.
Whoever wins.
Well, Joe Jackson finally.
That was a fact.
They all disagree with you. Finally.
Finally, I say it's definitely going to a runoff. I'm prepared.
You say it's definitely going into a runoff.
Sure.
You're sticking your neck out on this.
Sticking my neck out.
I said it to be
Finally, why are you so convinced it's going to be a runoff?
I think the issues are too. You see, the forces pulling in different directions are so strong.
But, Prof, finally, 30 seconds, we're going.
Well, I think I associate myself with Dr. Jinapor. Certainly, it's going to be one tie for whoever wins. And my final word on the issue of infrastructure, I don't believe that infrastructure necessarily wins election. Because, mind you, in 2008, if you look at the extent of infrastructure the Kufuor administration has done, then they should have won the elections.
Okay.
So it goes down to the narrative.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor.
Organizational prowess in terms of the political party.
That's what
it's very important because today, as we speak, then people still believe that they won the 2012 election.
Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Jinapor, who is lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba, Joe Jackson, who is governance analyst, and Professor Bafo Ajimendia, former UN senior governance advisor, and I am Winston Amwa. On behalf of the team, I say thank you very much for joining us. Now, we'll be back next week. By then, we'll know whether it's a one-touch or it's a runoff. Have a good evening, and make sure you cast your vote on December 7th. That's Wednesday. But also join me tomorrow on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7 from 5:50 to 10 a.m. It's a continuation and analysis of the issues. Bye for now.